Some parents are not reaching their limit because they love their children less. They are reaching it because they have been carrying too much for too long. That difference matters because one story creates shame and the other creates clarity. Most emotional limits do not arrive during dramatic moments everyone would notice. They build quietly through interruptions, vigilance, guilt, noise, and unfinished mental loops. It happens when bedtime drags on and your inbox still feels painfully open. It happens when your child asks for help and your chest suddenly tightens. It happens when your teen goes silent and you instantly feel shut out. The outside moment looks small, but the inside experience feels deeply crushing. That is usually the first truth exhausted parents need to hear clearly. You are reacting not just to now, but to everything unfinished inside you. A school message, a deadline, another cost, another chore, another emotional adjustment. A child crying in traffic and a kitchen resetting faster than you can restore it. A mind that never fully sits down, even long after your body does. That is why good parents sometimes sound harsher than they ever intended. Not because love disappeared, but because overload reached the sentence first tonight. And overload has become one of the most ordinary parts of parenting. Modern parents are expected to stay regulated inside conditions that constantly deregulate them. Be patient, emotionally available, productive, informed, calm, present, and endlessly appreciative daily. Protect childhood, manage screens, support feelings, hold boundaries, and keep earning money. Watch for anxiety, bullying, loneliness, and withdrawal, then respond wisely without sounding overwhelmed. That would already be hard in any generation, even before digital pressure. Now add notifications, rising costs, comparison, constant access, and online social chaos. Now add children who are tired, overstimulated, and carrying invisible stress themselves. No wonder parental burnout can feel heavy while still looking completely normal outside. Lunch gets packed, emails get answered, uniforms appear, and appointments are remembered. You still show up to pickups, practices, meetings, birthdays, and household logistics. But inside, your recovery slows down, your reactions sharpen, and joy thins. Weekends stop feeling restful because weekends carry their own exhausting workload too. Small questions stop feeling small because they never arrive when at once. Then guilt arrives and tells you this should feel easier than it does. Guilt sounds responsible, which is why it drains exhausted parents so effectively. It says better parents would be calmer, kinder, tidier, and more grateful. It rarely says sleep loss changes patience and noise changes emotional tolerance. It rarely says stress makes ordinary needs feel like incoming emotional threats. So the child asking for help can feel unbearable for a second. The teen forgetting something simple can feel like disrespect instead of development. The socks on the floor can feel like proof nothing stays solved. Not because you believe that fully, but because stress shrinks perspective first. When parents reach their emotional limit, the trigger is rarely the whole story. The real story is accumulation that almost nobody sees and nobody applauds. Too many decisions, too much noise, too little silence, and almost no real recovery. You are tracking forms, medicine, moods, homework, passwords, birthdays, and subtle changes. You are remembering snack preferences while monitoring tone shifts nobody else noticed. You are carrying practical labor and emotional forecasting at the same time. That invisible work is exhausting because it continues even while you look still. Even sitting down, your mind keeps scanning what tomorrow still needs from you. That is why many parents feel tired before the hard part begins. Their body is bracing for the next 10 things before one arrives. And anticipation becomes another form of fatigue when life keeps proving it necessary. Screen time conflict cuts deeper because the fight is rarely just about minutes. It is about access, influence, secrecy, sleep, comparison, and emotional distance now. It is about watching a device hold your child more easily than you. It is about not knowing whether silence means rest, scrolling, shame, or exclusion. For parents of teens, uncertainty makes every closed door feel suddenly loaded. Maybe they need space, maybe they feel rejected, maybe they're emotionally flooded. Maybe they are exhausted from performing versions of themselves all day online. Parents feel the uncertainty in their body before they can explain it. You see the lit screen, delayed eye contact, half answer, and sudden shutdown. You wonder whether to push, step back, ask again, or hold boundaries. Every option feels wrong, and that guessing wears parents down fast daily. Not because parents want control, but because uncertainty keeps them scanning constantly. And constant scanning makes ordinary evenings feel like low-grade emergencies at home. The same thing happens with younger children, just in different emotional clothing. A child whining while you cook may seem tiny from the outside. Inside an overloaded parent, it lands on a stack already too high. The unread school email, the work pressure, the budget worry, partner tension. The fact you have not had one uninterrupted thought all day long? So the whining is never only the whining once, saturation fully sets in. It becomes the final sound in a room already full of pressure. That is why parents sometimes surprise themselves with their own sudden intensity. They think, why did that tiny moment hit me so hard today? Because overload changes size, and your brain stops measuring proportion accurately anymore. Spilled water feels symbolic, not because it matters, but because you are full. Forgotten shoes feel personal not because they are, but because you were stretched. Sibling bickering feels enormous not because it is new, but everything echoes louder. This does not excuse harsh reactions, but it does explain them better. And understanding the context creates options that shame can never fully create. Shame says you are the problem, full stop, and leaves no room. Understanding says your environment, pace, or load is overwhelming you right now. One story traps you in self-attack, while the other opens practical choices. Sometimes the most useful question is not, what is wrong with me? Sometimes it is, what has been building inside me without any release? That question sounds small, but it changes the emotional frame completely underneath. It turns a character judgment into a pattern you can actually notice. Maybe the pressure is noise that never stopped once all day long. Maybe it is decision fatigue from running everyone's unofficial emotional control tower. Maybe it is comparison after watching calmer families online for 5 careless minutes. Maybe it is carrying everybody's feelings while nobody asks where yours went. Once pressure gets named, it becomes less likely to become your identity. You stop saying, I am terrible, and start saying, I am overloaded. That difference can save an evening from collapsing into guilt and distance. Because specific overload can be interrupted even when life stays messy sometimes. A vague sense of failure usually cannot be interrupted at all alone. Sometimes interruption means lowering one demand instead of raising your standards again. It means frozen pizza without putting yourself on trial for it tonight. It means letting the car ride stay quiet without forcing connection immediately. It means saying, I want to answer well but need 2 minutes. That sentence teaches children something powerful without making them manage you emotionally. It shows feelings can be noticed before they become damage inside relationships. It shows space is sometimes part of connection, not evidence against it. Many parents fear needing room means they are becoming less loving somehow. Often the opposite is true when the space is honest and regulated. Unchosen distance harms closeness, but chosen pause can protect it beautifully too. There is also grief inside emotional overload that rarely gets named directly. It is the grief of not feeling like the parent you imagined. Not because you expected perfection, but because you expected much more margin. More patience at bedtime, more softness after school, more steadiness during conflict. Instead, many parents feel rushed through moments they wanted to truly inhabit. That grief hardens into shame unless it is understood compassionately and early. Many parents are not failing ordinary expectations in ordinary conditions today either. They are trying to meet impossible expectations under historically strange pressure now. Constant stimulation, constant advice, constant judgment, constant access, constant comparison everywhere online. You are not only raising children anymore, you are filtering modern culture. You are interpreting trends, apps, body image, school stress, loneliness, and online risk. You are deciding what matters, what is dangerous, and what deserves response. That work is psychologically expensive before the dishes and deadlines even begin. Because so much stays invisible, parents often minimize their own exhaustion completely. They think nothing terrible happened today, so why do I feel wrecked? Because the body counts friction, vigilance, interruption, noise, and failed recovery too. If every part of your day requires soothing, adjusting, absorbing, or anticipating, depletion follows. Not as a personal weakness, but as a predictable human outcome instead. The goal is not becoming a parent who never reaches emotional limits. That parent does not exist, no matter how polished their pictures look. The real goal is noticing limits earlier and meeting them without shame. Earlier might mean catching the snap before it becomes a real wound. It might mean realizing your anger is protecting exhaustion underneath right now. It might mean seeing your child's hard moment collided with your invisible one. That awareness does not remove pressure, but it prevents extra damage later. It stops every rough evening from becoming proof that love is broken. Children do not need parents who stay endlessly calm under impossible pressure. They need parents who can return, repair, and name what happened honestly. That may be one of the most stabilizing things a family experiences. Not perfect performance, but believable recovery children can trust and remember deeply. I was overwhelmed, I answered sharply, and that was not your fault. I am settling down, and I want to try that again gently. Those words teach emotional safety more powerfully than control ever could alone. They also loosen a private fear many parents carry in silence daily. The fear that one bad evening means permanent damage has started already. Usually, what shapes a child most is the pattern around the moment. Is there repair, reflection, accountability, and warmth after the rupture today too? When the answer becomes yes, more often, the whole house softens noticeably. Not perfectly, but enough for everybody to breathe differently inside it together. The mess still returns, notifications still buzz, and screens still glow nightly. But pressure stops turning every difficult moment into a character verdict alone. That is often where breathing room starts returning to a parent slowly. So if you feel close to your emotional limit lately, notice gently. Your irritability may be information before it becomes a lasting habit later. Your numbness may be protection before it becomes deeper disconnection later on. Your guilt may be the cost of caring beyond real capacity lately. None of those signals mean you love your family any less today. They may have been carrying too much without enough witness. And sometimes being witnessed is where real change begins for parents first. Not because it fixes the schedule, the mess, or the money overnight. Because it ends the lie that your struggle makes no sense alone. There is a reason you feel this full and probably several underneath. Once those reasons become visible, your limit stops looking like failure anymore. It starts looking like a signal from a system under strain today. A human signal saying this pace has a cost, and love needs relief. If this felt familiar, tell me what pushes you closest to your limit. And if you want more honest insight into parenting beneath the surface, subscribe.